Hi fam, it's Dylan's mum Deborah. This is Dyl Friends.
Oh my God, we've killed Michael Jordan's dad.
I won the first Brownlow. The problem with that was I wanted it again.
Hey Jared, delete the tweet.
No, we're not here to break news.
This is an exclusive.
It's so silly looking back on for me because I remember just feeling like I'm not needed.
I couldn't, in my wildest of dreams, imagine that we win the flag at the end of the year.
Damo's a lot funnier than people give him credit for.
Hugely funny.
But Andrew, a little message came across his phone and it was, give Job his Brownlow back.
Kate McCarthy, how are you?
I'm good, Dyl. It's good to be here.
Long time in the making.
It has been.
We've been friends for a while.
We have, Dyl Friends.
Yeah.
But no, it's good to be here.
Hey, congratulations off the top. I think what an amazing, I'm going to say like 69 months.
Yeah.
Do you reckon?
Yeah,
Like it's
probably
been longer, but I reckon just the speediness of the last, when we last sort of caught up, you were still doing a bit of part-time work with the YJFL.
Yep.
Then transitioned into full-time.
Yeah.
It's just gone amazing.
It has. It's been one of those things where you consider it an overnight sensation in about 10 years of hard work, which I'm sure you understand.
Yeah.
You sort of plug away for so long. And then, all of a sudden a few different things start to pop up and then it's kind of a bit of a domino cascade effect after that. This year's been great. It's been great to be across more men's football. Obviously, I've done that for a long time on Triple M, but to be across other platforms now talking about men's footy as much as I talk about women's footy and being able to, be considered an analyst in that space as well has been something that's been really exciting and something that I've enjoyed. It's obviously come with some criticisms and all that sort of stuff, but it's been really, really exciting and interesting and where I wanted to get to.
Good on you. Congratulations. It's funny you say criticisms. Like, I suppose let's talk about it. Do you, because I don't, when I think of you, and sometimes perception's reality, right? Like in our own heads, we think we're not more important, but we think about our own things more than other people do. And I just don't I feel like there has been a really good changing of maybe culture, and you would know this better than me, but from an outside point of view, I feel like you are so valued and respected in that sense already. Like, do you think there's still a bit to go in that, or have you seen improvements in that way already?
I think there's no question the people that I work with have 100% respect for me and for every person on the panel, whether they're male, whether they're female. Everyone that I work with has been nothing but respectful, and that goes all the way back to, I think, 8 years. I've been working on Triple M now, and that 8 years ago, footy was very different to what it is now with the diversity of opinion. I'd say the wider AFL community still has a fair way to go on that, but to be completely frank, I don't really care what those people think about me. And that's taken a few weeks or a few months to adjust to. The scrutiny around men's football and compared to the scrutiny around women's football and the people that have opinions of it is very different. First few weeks of doing the round so far was really tough. Waking up on a Sunday morning and having multiple different things. And everyone says, don't read the comments. And like when you're tagged in a post, you get the notifications about the comments that you mentioned in or that have been said on a post that you've been a part of. So had to make a few changes with things like don't get tagged in them and things like that. And the social media side of things has been super helpful and the people that run those accounts with that. But just some of the really unnecessary stuff that at first actually did quite affect me because I hadn't really been accustomed to it. But then sort of working through it with psychologists and other people is I don't really value what that person has to say about me anyway. And the likelihood of them actually having a valid argument, like I don't mind when people disagree with my opinion. That is exactly what we're supposed to do when we analyse football. I might see something one way, you might see it completely differently, and I respect that. But when it's a personal attack about either what I look like, my gender, the fact that I've never played AFL and then I've played AFLW. I couldn't play AFL because I'm a woman, so I've played AFLW, which is literally the next best thing, or it's the same thing. And then you kind of realise that no matter what, there's no point. I don't engage with those people. There's no point because ultimately it's going to come back to some sort of situation where they're just going to move the goalposts again, where it's something that I can't refute, like you're a woman. Well, I can't change that, or you do this, or this is why you're a DEI hire. It's like ultimately whatever you say, I'm not going to be able to beat. So who cares? So that has taken a little bit of adjustment. It's taken some, reflection and working out who you value in your opinion giving and who you value in your feedback as well. But it's just, I just wish social media wasn't such a cesspit at times because it's just who can say the most vile thing about someone else and then people jump on that.
Yeah, it's so hard. And I think what I was alluding to definitely was more the inner circles of media, I suppose. And like that's probably the only people you want to be respected by and have respect for. Like, you know, I have to even say myself how much it affects things that you do, as much as like you don't think it does or you pretend it doesn't and you don't value. Like it's very hard to read things about yourself online. As you said, we are, you know, the masters of our own minds, and we think that things are, you know, literal. And if that person walked down the street and they said something, you wouldn't even think twice about it. But because it's in a DM, you're just like, oh, fuck, it must be true. That's the other thing. Like,
yeah. I've never had actually an experience where anyone's come up to me face to face and said a bad thing about me. And that's sort of what you lean on. I've had a few really nice scenarios recently actually where people have said that they love what I do, they loved watching me play footy and this and that. And for me, that counts so much more than someone that's hiding behind a
keyboard.
Yeah, or a picture of a truck that
Nothing wrong with trucks. Nothing wrong with trucks. Nah, look, it's interesting, isn't it? And I think that a part of me is like, why are we even talking about this? Let's not give it light. But then I think it is still important to educate people on, like, just don't fucking be an idiot. And I think that, you know, this community especially, I think they are really good people and do listen to those messages. And I think they're the ones that are already doing it right. And you've just got to know that you're doing such an incredible job. And yeah, really, just from an outside point of view, just proud of what you're doing. Not because you're a woman or you played AFLW, just because your insight's been amazing. And I know how hard it is, no matter who you are, to get into the AFL media. So you've done a great job. But it's because you know what you're talking about. When did you, like, when you were playing, do you think your analysis was as good as what it is now?
I think the more I actually learnt about football when I was playing, the worse I actually performed.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
So my first few seasons of footy, I was so raw. Like my first season of AFLW, I had no idea of structures, of where you wanted to go, anything like that. Like I was nowhere near having any footy IQ, and that was probably my best season I've ever played. Obviously other elements around that. It was everyone's first season, so that didn't help. But I think, the more and more I learnt, the more I actually probably tried to help other people with their game on the field rather than worrying about just me and what I needed to do, which in turn did impact my performance. It may have helped other players' performances and the way that I was able to sort of help them work out structures and direct on field and be a little bit of a leader in that sense. I think it did have a negative impact. So as a player, I wish I'd probably got that balance right towards the back end of my career. But yeah, now I think the reason I love the analytics of it so much is because I've come from a background where I'm a teacher. So it's sort of the reasons why you can make a point are really valid as a teacher. You have to be able to explain to people why something is happening because we all know, with kids, the first question that they ask is why. Why is that the case? And I think that's something that's really helped me with my analytics of the game and being able to present reasons why I feel this way, just doing it really naturally and trying to be quite concise when I do it, because if you go on and on and on and on, kids don't listen. And that was probably the easiest lesson to learn as a teacher, to capture the attention and while you've got it, deliver the message that you're trying to.
I love your point about, like, the more you knew about something, the worse, your words that you became. And I feel strongly on this because I still remember this day back when I was a junior. And I don't know how this turns into a lesson for people because it's sort of not really possible anymore with how much data we get from games and stuff. But I remember being like 16, 17 in the representative like metro sides and stuff. And I remember one of the boys coming up to me and goes, "Oh, mate, the last 3 games you've led the disposals." And I was like, "How do you know?" And he's like, "There's this stat sheet. Like there's a sheet here that says that the kicks and handballs." And I was like, what the fuck? Like I'd never even knew that that's what had happened. And since that day, I never led a disposal count ever again.
Yeah.
It was like I just went to thinking about how you can do things and like, oh, people know what we're doing. I thought that you just didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah, and
the ignorance is bliss, like sometimes.
Those 3 games could have been 3 of your worst.
Yeah.
You never know, but you were top of the disposal count. So it was like, oh, Dyl had a great game.
Yeah.
How good was he? He got this much of the footy. I think back to my first season of AFL football, I went at like 2 goals a game average over the season. And I reckon I averaged 6 disposals.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, it's like, well, what contribution is she making in the disposals column? 6. Oh, well, she's actually averaged 2 goals a game.
Bit of Bisserioli about
Doesn't matter how much you get the footy if you make an impact with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the side of like that. I love stats. I use stats constantly to support what I'm trying to say. But the obsession with disposals is something I have a real gripe with, because it shouldn't matter who gets the most disposals for when you're doing a 3-2-1. I don't think that if someone has 40 but has little impact on the game, that automatically means that they get the 3 votes. Obviously, with 40, they've probably had a pretty solid impact on it, but I think that obsession with those disposals and those numbers and who sits atop of it is something that's probably impacted footy at times for the worst, not for the best.
I haven't even thought about this for a long time, but I'm thinking about, like, as a player, what were your favourite stats to sort of go well in? Because, like, I'm thinking off the top of my head, at the moment, there's a big, and I suppose it's always been big, but publicly it gets put a lot now for players, is like the metres gained, and like how, I think I was watching on the weekend, it was Melbourne versus Saints, and Nasai Wanganeen-Malira had, was it him that had like
900 or
900
something?
more than the next person? Like, it was just crazy how much he's moving the ball forward. I loved that. I loved goal assists and then like score involvements, because then I knew if I looked at those 3, I was like, if I've moved the ball forward, got involved in some chains and given a few off, like, you've done your role.
Yeah, as a small forward, mine was always tackles. So
yeah, see, I probably should have done that one.
Yeah, if I was able to tackle, and Craig Starcevich, who was the coach at Brisbane, still is, he was huge on, if I'm making chase down tackles, he knows I'm in the game. Yeah. And that was a really good sort of way for me to gauge. If I was putting on that tackle pressure, chasing that way, there was a fair chance I was going to be hitting the scoreboard or having the impact on the game. So that was probably the one. I was never someone that got high disposals ever across my whole career. And I think it's sort of, to me, slightly reassuring when I look at some of the men's disposals and some of the small forwards in the time that they play get 6 or 7. I'm like, oh, I played for half that time, so, and I still had 6 or 7. So disposals wasn't big, and just that impact, whether it was score involvements or hitting the scoreboard myself, probably those things were the biggest. But I knew when I was playing well, I was making tackles, and particularly chase down tackles.
Bit of scoreboard pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like that. Hey, before we quickly move in, a big shout out. Darcy's in the studio today.
Yes.
He's coming. He only comes in for the big shows, and when he heard you were coming in, he wanted to step back in. So, Darcy, it's good to have you back.
It's good to be back. And special shout out to Mon. I know she wanted to be here.
Yeah, she's flat. She was really excited to see you, but she's video today.
We should do this more.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Kate, talk me through your week. What's it looking like at the moment? Do you start your week on a Sunday or Monday? Are you traditional or?
Well, technically I would start it on a Monday. Now it's kind of Tuesday, Wednesday, my 2 days off. Okay. So that's like kind of my weekend. Yep. I always judge those people that worked in jobs that you'd be like, oh, what are you up to today? And they're like, oh, well, today's my Friday. Like, I'm never that vocal about it, but Tuesday, Wednesdays are my 2 days off and my weekend. And then Thursday I'm in at Sportsbet to do a show.
Is that with Kane?
It's not. Kano had to go to the kick-ons because Fox wouldn't take Kano. So,
fair enough.
But some reason they've taken me, which is great. There was a bit of a sticking point with that, but we got on in the end. So I do that one with Nathan Brown, Felix von Hoff and Zach Tui. Which is he's great. He is phenomenal. He's great at what he does, and just very lighthearted as well.
Irish as well.
Yes, very Irish. Yeah. Then usually we'll just sort of hang about in the city and head then straight to either Marvel or the MCG or the studio, depending on when the Thursday game is, to do Thursday rub into the footy. So that's with Jack Heverin, Jay Clark and Isaac Smith, which is another good crew. And then Brownie comes in and does the call as Jay goes out. So then we do Thursday night footy. If it's interstate, sometimes we'll travel for that. Other times we'll hand it over to the call team, just do the show. Then Fridays, usually had most of the day off, but now I'm on Friday night footy for 7
congrats.
For the next few weeks. So
huge.
Yeah, that's like something that I'd had a goal for a long, long time, to be on men's game day coverage for 7, which is massive.
So you specials Friday night?
So I'll be on the boundary Friday night.
Yep.
So I'll just be keeping the seat warm for Abby while she has her baby and is on leave. And then post game I'll be in sort of the expert role down in the rooms, which is great, with Daisy and Richo. So 2 people I've worked with a little bit, which are a lot of fun. Saturday morning, I get up and do a little sunrise cross in the morning. Then I've got the 1 o'clock game, usually at the G or Marvel, wherever it is. And then I go into the AFL to watch the rest of the games of a Saturday and then record the round so far, which is a wrap up of everything that's happened.
With the AFL.
Yeah. And that'll be, we usually get out of there sort of 12:30, like post midnight. And then back in at 9 o'clock at 7 for the footy feast. So we're on air from 12 till 2:30, which is a big shift, but it's with Richo and Campbell Brown, so that goes very quickly. Just a hell of a lot of fun with them. And then we luckily get to stay around all day and watch the footy, and then we're back on for the wash-up from 6 till 7. So I'm in at 7 on a Sunday from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. And then Monday, a little review show again with Sportsbet in the afternoon. So yeah, it's a fair bit. It is a fair bit.
It's amazing. Do you mind talking about, like, I think what would be really interesting for aspiring, boys and girls who want to get into the media, like, talk the business of yourself, because you're like, you and yourself are your own entity. You work for different outlets. So you like with Seven, Triple M, AFL, Sportsbet.
Yep.
Have I missed anyone?
They're the
big four.
Yeah.
Like, it's really cool what you've been able to do working for those. So you've had to, like, book in those. Obviously have the deals with them and work out your time so you can work across multiple things.
Yeah.
Has that been something that's been really interesting to work across?
Yeah, it has been. And I think the more, obviously, footy's a pretty unique one where you have broadcasts for TV and for radio. So that automatically opens up a couple of different opportunities that you can work across. And then, yeah, with the show side of things, just getting sort of, I guess, more and more, there's other platforms there for you to work across as well. But I think it's just working out, first of all, how you can make it all fit in. I'm really careful with making sure that I have all of the, I guess, details of something when someone either comes to me or my management around, okay, if I say yes to this, can I actually make it work? Because I don't want to say yes to something and then have to let them down or not be able to prep in a way that makes sure that I'm really good at that job. So that's the first thing I always make sure of is time management and the ability to prep. Make sure that I can rock up, do that job, but do it in a way that I know I'm across what I need to be across when I get there. And the really nice thing about all of my jobs really is I'm now across easily the first 2 games in the round. So Thursday night, Friday night, I'm part of the coverage. Saturday, I do the 1 o'clock game always. So the 2 games that I have to really watch and work out what's going on are the 4 o'clock time slot and the 2 night games on a Saturday. Because other than that, I'm covering it. So that helps so much with prep. It helps with me being prepared to go into that. And then Sunday, I'm across all of the games from the round because of the AFL show, and I just rock up on a Sunday and have everything I need really ready to go. So I think the other thing is making sure that the things you're doing complement each other, because it does significantly reduce your prep time because you're already all over what you need to be all over. So that's something that's super important, but also making sure it's something that you feel like you will enjoy. I think if you say yes to a job that's not really aligned with what you want to look like on air or what you want to work on, it's really hard to sort of rock up and in a way fake it till you make it and align with that. So that's probably the other advice, is making sure you can do it if you say yes to it and committing to it 100%, but making sure it also is something that you're going to enjoy, because I've come from a job, like I don't feel like I work really anymore. Yeah. Like I get to sit in the best seat in the house and watch footy and talk about it. Like, how many people would kill to do that? And I've come from a job where it's very much like a teaching environment where it's 8 till 4:30. You're there, you have meetings post, you have all of that. Love teaching, but there's a whole lot of stuff that goes with teaching that's not a whole lot to do with teaching. So to now be able to rock up and talk footy, and I think at the end of the day, like, we're not changing the world. We're talking about footy, and we can have some fun when we do it. And I think that's what it's supposed to be in my mind.
2 questions, because I don't want to forget the second one. But I think what would be awesome as well, that's amazing insight to, as you mentioned earlier, like, people have seen the fruits of labour the last 6 to 9 to 12 months of what you've been able to do. But a lot of hard work's gone in before that. And, like, you didn't get any handouts along the way. You had to go and do all this stuff. So I think, like, even to go back, how would you recommend someone that does want to do what you're doing? Like, what did you start out doing to, like, build your skills in this place? And the second question was, when you're doing so much stuff, and I can ask this again later, but I just wanted to not forget about it. Because I always think, like, people that do so much throughout the week, how do you personally try and find your point that you want to talk about? Because there's so many people doing media now, and you don't want to have the same point as everyone else. So how do you identify what you want to talk about throughout the week and then pivot it so that it's your own voice and something that you want to go with?
Yeah, so to start with, I think the evolution into getting into all of these roles, I think the first thing is just taking whatever you can sort of get in regards to media or being exposed to different things. So for me, it was actually doing a segment at the Lions called Locker Talk, and you'd go around, and I was Courtney
When you were
McDonald.
playing there?
Yeah, I was playing there, and Courtney McDonald, who sort of did a lot of their socials then, who's amazing in the space. She said, would you like to host? Like every few weeks you'll host. So you'd come up with topics with her about what the theme was going to be. So it was either around different rounds that we had or things that were happening or just completely rogue topics. And that was literally where I found that I loved being on camera, asking people questions, having a bit of banter. So I'd go around once every 4 weeks, ask players about what they were doing, what they were up to, whatever it was in the topic, and just have some chats with them and edit that, put it out. And then from that, I think the Lions were like, wow, like that actually looks really good. You're really good at doing that. Like we should allow you to do more. So if you have an association with a club, whether that's all the way up to AFL, AFLW, or whether it's your local club, doing as much as you can on that space, because the social space in local footy is as big, maybe not the same following, but you can still put as much content out as you want. And that side of things really changed from social. Remember when Instagram started and you'd be like, oh, you can't double post. Like you put a post out, you have to wait like at least a good couple of days. Yeah. And you'd be like, oh, well, 7 to 9 is the prime window for likes. You don't post until then. Now it's like any content is good content. You just got to, as much as you can do, something will hit at some point within reason. But the more that, and working in the media is very similar to that. Everyone like now can have an opinion on things, which is great. But I think the more and more that you can do for local footy or even like little competitions, like I used to work at the YJFL. If you went to a junior football league or a junior football club and said, I'm willing to do some content for you because I really want to get into it, I guarantee they are going to say yes to that.
I think even just in this space at the moment, like we are crying out for people just to want to create content. So it's, yeah, you can find people, that's for sure.
That's it.
The point is, I wanted to ask you, sorry to interrupt, but just before we move on, because I think it's really important, the point you made about, going to your club and asking to do content and stuff like that. How was it received amongst teammates? I'm not sure what it's like, when you're at Brisbane around, putting yourself out there and stuff, because I know maybe this is not to stereotype, maybe it's more of a guy's thing. Like it was quite hard to do that, even myself, I found, when, blokes would get into and bag you out. But I think, well, maybe the times have changed a little bit now and people are a bit more receptive because they can see it more. But there is going to be an uncomfortable point where you're not going to feel good about it. You have to just get through that part and just back yourself in.
Yeah, and the more you do it, the less uncomfortable you are.
Exactly, yeah.
So I would watch now, if I watched back some of those early locker talks, I would cringe 100%. And I hope a lot of people go back and do that because it's going to be quite funny.
Did you get good support from your teammates?
Yeah, absolutely. And you'd know, like you'd have people that you'd built up, and we were all really close. Like we'd built up really good relationships in the team, but players that you'd go to for this question or players that you'd go to for that question. But it's just such great experience when you get, if you start to interview someone, and this would be great now for what I'm doing on the boundary, and someone's not giving you a whole lot, well, you can kind of draw on that experience of, hey, how can we turn this around quickly? How can I get out of this? Or what can I ask? Or how can I break the ice a little bit to get you to maybe just tear down your walls ever so slightly? Or if you know that that's what the person's like, just keep it strictly, okay, what do we need to get out of this? Where are we going with this interview? So I think knowing who you're interviewing is the first thing, but that's great experience, throwing yourself in the deep end. And hey, it's all editable at the end of the day. Anything that you do for content, if it's flat, if it doesn't work, you delete it, you learn from it, you go again, and you work out what maybe got to that point, how you could have done that a bit differently. And it's the hardest way to learn because you have to be so vulnerable to do it, but it's also the easiest way to learn because you learn quickly.
Well, really.
Yeah.
It's the only way. Hey, that's really good advice. I think we've never actually touched on a lot of this, so I think it's really important for people to hear because a lot of people do want to do what you're doing. You've done amazing job of getting to where you want to be in so many different parts of content, and it has been that trajectory of just like throwing things at a wall, seeing what sticks, and then going through. What was the opportunity? What was your first one out of Brisbane?
It was actually boundary riding for Triple M. So our assistant coach, Daniel Merritt, at the time, he was our backline coach. Love the bloke. Such a great bloke. He was doing boundary for Triple M for the men's games the year before, and then he was actually going to be the runner for the boys that year. So there was a spot that opened up, and Sam Hargraves, who was up on Triple M in Brisbane at the time, he'd sort of seen a whole lot of my Locker Talk stuff and seen him at club events and stuff, and he put my name forward, and that's how it sort of all started. And I was on the boundary for a year, and then straight up into specials in Brisbane, sitting next to Simon Black, who has been my hero for God knows how long, and working alongside him, which was just a pretty surreal moment. And that's where it all came from. It all sort of went from there. So if I hadn't ever put my hand up to do Locker Talk for the Lions, who knows what the difference would be now. So, yeah.
Amazing. They recently I was listening to the AFL Awards, and they said that Locker Talk was the second best production from an AFL club they've ever seen.
That's great.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Discussions with Dylan.
But well, obviously, number one was going to be discussions with Dylan. Like, that was a no-brainer. That Locker Talk was actually really like forward thinking for the time.
Yeah.
Like, you think now, great, like going around and talking to people on the thing. Like, it was, no one really had opened up their change rooms or the players in that way. It wasn't really like that.
Because that's what
in
people
media
want
then.
now. Is just like, I was on YouTube yesterday watching a doco from Collingwood on Nick Dacos, and it was just I just love that one shot, no edits, weird little bits, and you're just going like, where's this going? What's happening here? We're doing ones on YouTube as well called Final Checks. They were recording before we got in here, but we love just like recording 5 minutes, 10 minutes of just what it's like to be in here, and people just love it.
And that's it. And that was 10 years ago that we were doing that. So for Brisbane to have that sort of forward thinking, now it's pretty generic. It's what you'd expect.
Yeah.
But 10 years ago, it wasn't at all.
Content. So great. That's really cool. I'm looking forward to someone putting that into practice because it's a really good advice. How do you frame your content? How do you go into a game? What are you trying to sort of examine for your own personal niche of analytics, I suppose?
Yeah, so to start with, if I'm at the game, I'll like have obviously a better vantage point than what you get sort of just with broadcast vision. So if I'm commentating a game, I'll take really quick notes of something that I've liked the look of, or if a player's playing particularly well, I try to keep it very different to this person's had 30 touches or this person's done this. Like a few weeks ago, I did the Brisbane game against Collingwood for Easter Thursday, and it was just a clinic from the Pies at centre bounce. But yeah, they've won a heap of centre bounces. How are they doing it? Why have they won a heap of centre bounces? And then went back and looked at a lot of the different centre bounce clearances, and it was a lot to do with the Nick Dacos factor, but he actually attracted multiple defenders, which then allowed Pendlebury to get off the chain and have multiple centre bounce clearances. So that was the angle. Okay, this is why Nick Dacos is so good, but it's not when he has the footy sometimes necessarily. It's when he actually draws a crowd and his other teammates can get off the chain. So for me, it's trying to find things that I see the game slightly differently to how other people maybe that are watching see it. Or if it is something genuinely that you'd see and be like, wow, that was incredible. We need to applaud that as well. When players just do things that are incredible and that take on a tackler or are able to lay a huge tackle. But from the sort of more intricate stuff, I'll usually look at behind the goals visions and try and see maybe a leading pattern or work rate. Little things like that are things that I like to reward of players that maybe don't get the credit from the outside media or from the average punter that's watching it, because I find that stuff is quite intricate and also really important in the game. Okay, this player got an uncontested mark in the goal square. Well, that's because 2 or 3 players worked that hard to take their opponent away from them that he was the beneficiary. So, and that's sort of how I see the game, and that's something that's come quite naturally to me. And that's I think why I have a bit of a different analysis to some people. But I'll never, if I'm not confident to talk about something and it comes up on the run sheet, I'll say, look, I don't really want to cover that. I'm happy for us to do that, but haven't really seen enough of that to be confident to talk on it. Or if we are doing that, let's do it in a really light way. But a lot of the analysis stuff I sort of take to the producer and have the clips all done for them so that I know, not because they make me or anything like that, but I want to have full control over what I'm talking about so I know I can nail it and know that I can get that point across. And I think vision is a really good way to explain that to people, and pauses and explaining why this is a scenario, or showing 2 clips where they did it really well here and then that led to them doing this here, which I think is important to explain to people.
Bloody hell. It's funny, like, I suppose once you've been a player as well, and you sometimes when I'm watching games, it takes me back to, I think, like oh shit, that's going to be in the meeting on Monday.
Exactly.
I always think like,
Yeah.
oh, that's like maybe people didn't see what happened there, but I can guarantee that will be in. And something stood out to me. Actually, I was talking to this on Footy and Friends with Mick and Brett the other day, but Bailey Smith's probably the best player in the comp at the moment.
Yep.
So dynamic. He's just, what he's doing is amazing. But there was this stoppage I was watching, because I always watch D50 stoppages because I have like PTSD from being a backman when I was playing half back about getting forward 50 goals, because coaches just hate stoppages in forward 50s.
Yeah.
And he was playing on Elijah Hewitt and just sort of paid him no respect. And Elijah Hewitt just ran in, kicked this snap, and it sort of got West Coast back within the game. And that's just the things that people probably they don't see with even the best players like your Dacosses and your Bailey Smiths and Patrick Crippses. It's like the amount of good they do definitely always outweighs, but they do sometimes, the best midfielders leak a lot of goals, which I don't think gets probably shown enough. Not that it needs to be, but it's just really interesting.
No, I agree. And it's always comes down to like, that D50, you'd always have a call in the team that was like locked down. Like if you are near someone that is free, why are they free? You need to go over. If it's not your player, who cares? Someone needs to look after that player. And it's interesting sort of how difficult the mental side of football can be, because if you switch off for that long, like if Bailey had just run a 200-metre effort up and down the ground and he's cooked.
Well, I think he kicked the goal before,
and he's cooked trying to get back. It's like that is why you need to be so fit physically so that mentally you can still be switched on, because that's the thing. When your physical goes, your mind is the first thing that goes. So, and that's why I think having players around you that are good with their voice, being able to communicate that to you is so important to be able to lift you. Oh, yeah, you're right. Like that is my player, arm across. I need to go there.
Who's your like top 3 or 4 or 5 players that you think of seriously underrated, maybe that you look and you go, oh shit, like I don't even talk about them, no one talks about them, but this is why they're so good?
Well, I think the first one who everyone is now starting to talk about for the last couple of years is Ollie Dempsey. I love that kid, the work he does. And I've been big on him for a couple of years now, and he's started to hit the scoreboard, and I'm so glad he's getting the credit that he deserves in the media, because
so good.
He is just a freak. Like he can get back and save goals, and then in the next play be the one that's on the end of the kick going inside forward 50. His ability to, I guess, cover ground, but also be really clever with the way that he does when he goes, when he holds. Then Ed Richards, who's definitely started to blossom the last few weeks. I sort of remember when he went into the midfield halfway through last year to cover a few holes that they had with injury. Sort of watching him, I was like, they've definitely found another elite midfielder at the Bulldogs by doing that. And he's been this year, I think, one of the best players in the competition, week in, week out, with what he's been able to do and the impact he's had. I think there's a lot of defenders that don't get enough credit for what they do. I think Jack Payne at the Lions is someone that Harris Andrews is obviously an elite defender, and he is the one that takes a lot of the intercept marks, but Jack Payne's ability to lock down an opponent.
It's almost like what Frampton's doing as well with Collingwood at the moment. Those two guys,
they allow the others to intercept. They allow the others to run off because they know that Jack Payne or Frampton, they're going to get that job done in the one-on-one, so I know I can go, or I can hedge my bets a little bit more. And then just other sort of like in and under midfielders that don't do the pretty stuff, like Atkins at Geelong, like leading the tackle count.
He's my favourite player at the moment. Everyone I think does respect this player a lot, but I just feel I think they are one of the best kicks, the most unorthodox kicks is Graham Myers. Like he doesn't miss. He opens up the game so much with his kicking, and albeit I really watched the West Coast Geelong game on the weekend because I was, just like you're locked in.
Yep.
It was the first time I'd been locked in.
That was a great game.
It was an awesome game.
Yeah.
And just watching like Dempsey, Graham Myers, Atkins, Sean Manor, what like these guys do, it's especially those high half forwards was really good. But hey, we're getting very niche into that. Let's move on from that game. How do you keep yourself, for lack of a better word, healthy? Like physically, emotionally, mentally. Like I can imagine being on television, working the hours, and I suppose you're not really doing a normal job that can put stresses on people that others have. Like how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think the first thing that sort of made me realise that maybe I wasn't quite doing enough to look after myself was so I got married earlier in the year and we went on a honeymoon to Bali and we had 5 nights there. And we did not do a single thing. We laid by the pool, we ate however much we wanted, and we just like relaxed. And I couldn't tell you the last time that I actually relaxed before that.
Did you relax though?
Oh, 100%. Like I just like the minute my head hit the pillow overnight, I went to sleep. Wow. I didn't have a headache at any point during the day. I just was not stressed. And I sort of, when I'm looking at my life, I'm like, I'm not a stressful person. Like, I'm organized, I get stuff done. And then I compare it back to Barley Kate, and she was zen. Yeah. Like, there was just no worries, no planning, no thoughts of where I'm going to next. And it sounds so cliche, but like, I was actually just like in the moments that I had then. My mind wasn't going forward or back. And it was something that really made me quite aware that day to day I actually am really quite stressed. And not in the sense that I'm sort of really heightened and anxious, but in the sense that my mind is always thinking, where am I going to from here? So I've got this game on. All right, what am I going to do for that game? That's right, that player's been playing really well. And this could be a Tuesday. I'm like, this is my day off. Why am I thinking of my prep for Thursday now? So I've become a little bit better at just having a bit more structure with when I prep for things. Another thing that I spoke with my psychologist was going from having a 9-to-5 job where that's your job, that's your day, you leave work, that's done, to having a job where I rock up on a Thursday night and I've got the show into the game. Okay, well, no one really says what we're going to be doing. What do I need to prep for that? And the unlimited possibilities of how much prep you could do for a game is incredible. I could spend every hour from now to Thursday prepping for the game if I wanted to. And I could find all these different things that would help me feel more comfortable for that game. But that's not healthy. That's not going to help me. So I got a little schedule that she gave me, was like, right, do you know how much you prep for things? And I say, I actually couldn't tell you. So that next couple of weeks, I wrote down exactly how much prep I was doing. And for some shows, I was doing 4 or 5 hours prep. And I was like, that's really redundant. I don't need to do that much prep. But not knowing it until you've actually mapped it all out is something that's really helpful. It's a super helpful tool, because then I was like, right, I know I'm going to do a couple of hours prep for this show now. Then I'm done with it, because there'll be a whole heap of things that I could have still done, but it won't have mattered, because we're not going to get through it, and that's all that matters. Like, it's a 20-minute show. You don't need to be doing 5 hours prep for a 20-minute show. So I think having that clarity and presence of mind around what it actually looks like has helped me have a lot more time to myself, but then also just doing that and doing things. And I've still got to get better at this. I told my manager, Sally Harris, when I got back, the similar story with barley, and she's like, right, what can we put in place that helps you to just switch off a bit? Like, I love my golf, so we're playing around a golf with my phone off, do not disturb in the bag every week. That would be helpful. Still yet to implement that, but it's those things that I need to start to do so that we don't need to go to Bali for 5 nights for me to feel relaxed. I'd still love to go to Bali every few weeks for 5 nights to feel relaxed, but it's that. And I don't think you really have a moment like that until you get the ability to reflect. Like, this is baseline, not stressed, compared to day to day, and the gap between that probably needs to just come back together a little bit more.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm just trying to reflect on, like, I don't even know what is going on with my life, but it's like I feel like something to do with, like, stress somewhat. I don't know if this makes sense, but somehow stress makes me feel a little bit more calm. Like, I went to Bali a while ago as well, and I know this is not healthy, but when I was there, I was struggling just not doing anything.
Yep.
So there's probably a bit to unpack there in itself, but it's, I don't know, I just think now, like, there's so many people saying so much stuff about, like, trying to be calm, not trying to be calm, being stressed, it's good, it's bad. It's like, I think you just got to work out what's best for you at the end of the day.
That's it. And if I was anywhere but Bali or on a holiday, I'm the same as you. Like, I cannot sit at home on my couch and have a day off. That's just not me. I'll get up, right, I'm going to walk the dogs at this time, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that, then I'm going to do that. And factoring into my schedule some relaxation time or some time where I'm not doing something. Like, I'll message my wife all the time on my day off and be like, oh, I'm not going to go to the gym today. And she's like, that's fine. It's your day off. And I'm like, no, that's so bad. Like, I can't go on these days because I got work, so I have to go today. She's like, Kate, like, just don't go today. Like, just relax a bit. Take the dogs for another walk if that relaxes you. You don't have to go. And I think that's the thing coming from being a professional athlete.
Bad not doing anything.
When you don't exercise, you're like, you are disgusting.
Do you know what's worse? I think I feel worse now that I'm exercising consistently than I did when I wasn't, because, like, I feel so bad if I don't do something like every day.
Yeah, and it's like that. It's that constant battle of who knows how to look after themselves, right? Honestly. You're the only person that knows. Yep. And if on that day you're feeling like crap and you don't go for a run, well, it's because you felt like crap.
Yeah.
And you can't hold yourself to account like that, to sort of look at yourself in the mirror and think, oh, well, what did you achieve today?
Yeah.
Well, you actually achieved nothing, and that's good sometimes.
100%.
To not do anything.
As long as your intentions are there to get better, like all I focus on at the moment is sleep, trying to get as much sleep as I can.
That'd be easy with a newborn.
Well, yeah, it's finds its challenges. As much sleep as I can, looking after like what I'm putting in my mouth, so it's just trying to eat as clean as I can, physical exercise, and then just overall general health. If I can get those 4 things right.
And I think being kind to yourself if you don't get it right too. That's another thing that you need to be able to be, because you're not going to always get it right.
Yeah.
And it's accepting
We're speaking
that.
of 2 seasoned veterans that have had a lot of work done on themselves, I feel. People that have sat in rooms talking to other people for a long time.
Yeah, a lot of clinical help here.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Do you, I know we spoke about this off air, but did you want to talk about what your with ADHD diagnosis? Is that...
Yeah,
I've
for sure.
heard you speak about it and we spoke about it before as well, but how has that sort of changed over the last period of that sort of coming to fruition?
Yeah, and I think sort of it's the buzz diagnosis at the moment. So there is slight amount of like, I feel a bit of stigma around even talking about it. And that's not because of what previously it's been. It's actually with how like in
I
the
hate saying the
focus
word
it is now.
anxiety because it straight away like it's almost anxiety fatigue. People are like, shut the fuck up, and I'm like that too. But it's still important to talk about.
Yeah, and I'm still sort of reluctant in social settings to be like, oh yeah, I've got ADHD as well. Oh right, did TikTok diagnose you? I'm like, well, actually, it did help to join the dots. But yeah, so I think I didn't really work it out until I kind of did hear a lot of other people's similar stories. So I think that's why it is still important. But just the like constant decision fatigue, the inability to just find motivation for anything, or you're the whole other way and like the only thing you can do is that particular thing. Like you're either hyper-focused on something or you could not do less of it and be bothered with any of it. And I just think back to my career as both a teacher and an AFLW player and of how much knowing or being medicated or having the structures in place that I have now could have actually helped those 2 careers. Like I think right now if you asked people that I work with to assess me, they would say that I'm probably one of the more reliable people because I'm on time, I'm organised, I'm that, and I pride myself on that. If you talk to people that I taught with, they would say I was the most unreliable teacher and would constantly have this burnout, would take days off because I was just like, I cannot even contemplate going to work today because I don't know what is going on. I'm just burnt out, I'm exhausted. And teaching is so structured. It's this class into this class, into this class, into a break. And if you don't have your structures in place around that, it is exhausting. And to look back on that and be like, wow, I'm actually quite embarrassed with how poor I was at times with being reliable in the teaching sense, that is really difficult. But I feel like if I knew the things I knew about my brain and how it worked, I could have actually been so much better at that. And same with AFLW.
And even just accepting as well. And I think that's like with the anxiety, the ADHD or OCD, things that, we deal with. It's like the whatever, it doesn't matter what the label is, but I think the one thing that sort of helped me a little bit was like, it's not going to make really, medication, all those things, they can help, your symptoms. But what it actually does do is it gives you a reason and you can make sense of your thoughts because you go like, am I fucking Fruit Loop here? Like, am I crazy?
Yeah.
And then as soon as you understand like, no, this is what's going on, you still have those tendencies, but you can understand it and actually sympathise with yourself a little bit better and understand like what is actually happening.
And also knowing that you're not the only one that's feeling like this. Like that's so reassuring as a human.
I thought I was the only person out there that was like had anxiety for like 30 years.
It's insane. And the more that people like us talk about it as well, the more people are like, wow, that's exactly how I feel, or that's similar to what I did, or like that. And you say that, I thought that I was just the laziest human being for a good 8-year period.
And then you tell yourself that and then you feel shit. But now you understand.
But you can't do anything to stop the rut. That's the breaking point, or the difference between, I think, just having this inability to motivate yourself. But like I knew when I was in the off season for AFLW, which back in seasons 1 to 6 was 8 months of the year, I knew that I needed to be doing things to help me to run, to prepare, to be fit on day 1 of preseason. And I knew that if I didn't do it, I would be on the back foot. But I could not within me find the motivation post-teaching, post that, with the burnout that I was experiencing to do it. It would not matter if you gave someone.
And people would just be like, oh, that's lazy.
That's it. Yeah. She's lazy. She's not committed. And I see how it would have come across like that as well. So I just, And like thinking back, there's a lot of people that I know that have had sort of later diagnosis with ADHD that just have this like, it's like this feeling in the pit of your stomach of what could have been if you knew earlier. But obviously thinking like that doesn't get you anywhere. But now it's like, wow, that explains so much of why I was feeling that way and why it was so hard to do that. And now recognizing that and knowing, yes, medication's great, but also the structures that I can put in place with behavioral psychologists and things like that know what they're talking about with the way that my mind works compared to the way that other people's mind works.
Yeah, especially physical activity. Like I've just found that it's just so you just got to move.
Yeah.
No matter what it is.
Yep.
Just
find something you like and
just go, just move. If you can.
Yeah.
Whatever shape or form, just somehow move your body.
And if you struggle walking, get a greyhound because they just don't stop getting at you until they take you. You take them for a walk.
I'm gonna have to
Very good motivation.
Yeah. No, but with the two, one's now just jumped in the pram going to the park, and even like I think what's really cool about having kids or a dog, because I think a lot of people would say they are similar things.
It's just the fact that I can leave them at home on their own and I feel okay about it.
I do that. No. I think what's really cool about looking after something is like when you are having a tough time or a shit day, taking your kid or your dog somewhere. Like I remember this, and before I had kids, I'd take my dog somewhere, and if they had a good day, it would make me just feel, I'm like, fuck, how good was that park this morning, mate? Like you just had the best day. Or I see Max on the swing and I'm like, all right, he's having a ripping day. Like, all right, tick. Like I've made him have a good day.
Yeah,
Then
that's so true.
Get you going a bit.
I remember when I was like at the height of my like worst sort of probably down, burnout, depressive state. I was still back up in Brisbane and I had Nacho, my dash hound, the first dash hound that I had. Still have him, but it was just him. Exactly that. Like there were days where I couldn't get out of bed and was just like, what am I doing with my life? Like I'm so just numb, like couldn't feel a thing and was just like, I'm rotting away here. And he'd come into the room and bring the ball and he'd drop it on the bed. And I was like, oh, all right, we're going for a walk. You got to go get some exercise. And it's just it sounds so stupid, but like the minute that they like light up when you get their lead or whatever it is, like kids would be similar with, okay, we're going to the park. Yeah. Oh, get your scooter, get this. Yeah. It's just that external validation that you've done something and you've actually made someone else or something else happy that just makes you happy. And you get your endorphins from actually moving, from going outside, from getting some fresh air and all of that. And it's just insane the impact that something so small like a dog all the way up to family, kids, siblings, whatever it is, can impact you, and sometimes you need a little bit of extra help from that.
Bloody oath. That's a good one. What's this year, before we talk more about other things, this year with the footy, who, if you had to say now, what are we at round 13, heading into round 13, who are you liking?
I think there's probably 4 teams for me that are at this stage of the season showing that they're in contention this year. Potentially 5, but I don't trust one of them just yet. So
who are you not trusting?
I'd trust them, but I just need to see a little bit more Gold Coast. I struggle to say that a team in its first year of finals can go all the way to win the flag. And with that, we go back to GWS, and their first year of finals were very impressive. Yeah. They didn't wait the amount of time that GWS have waited as a club to enter a finals campaign. So that's the first thing. But I love them. I love the Gold Coast Suns. I love that program. I love what Dim has been able to do up there. So they're my 5th sort of on the outer. I still think they will make finals. I just don't know how deep they're going to go with that inexperience. I think Collingwood, the Lions, they're not playing their best footy, but they're still second on the ladder somehow.
It's almost best case for them at the moment.
It is,
It's similar to nearly last year. They're not even playing that well, and they're in a better position.
So those 2, and then Geelong, I don't think you can underestimate them. A lot of teams would have gone to West Coast on the weekend and had West Coast stand up to them like that and lost that game. They found a way to win, and good teams just do it this time of season, and the Bulldogs are the 4th for me. I think their ability to find the depth that they've found early in the season and still have a lot of players to come back, I think they're going to be a bit of a daunting process. Daunting, can't even think of what I'm trying to say there.
Daunting.
Prospect.
That's the one. Yeah.
That's it.
There we go.
Yeah.
The Bulldogs one's really interesting. I went to the Geelong Bulldogs game a few weeks ago, and Geelong, obviously, again, they just find a way to get it done. But Bulldogs kicked so bad. Like, they had triple the amount of scoring shots, and you just go, shit. Like, they didn't have Bontempelli, I don't think, played.
No, he did, but he wasn't.
Yeah, he did play.
Yeah.
They didn't have Darcy. and
Liam Jones is still
Liam
sort of on the
Jones,
fringe.
And
Yeah.
there was a couple of others that missed, and I was just like, fucking hell, how good is?
And their first half ball use was woeful. Like, it was awful. They've some of the most uncharacteristic turnovers through the middle of the ground. Geelong, too good a team, pounce on that, kick a goal.
And again, like maybe they might play finals, or who knows what happens, but GMHBA as well. Like, I'd like to see it on the G or at Marble.
Yeah.
So those two teams for me are massive, but again, Brisbane huge as well, and Collingwood don't
are
look
just
it's annoying. They're so good.
They are so good this year. Got their defence right, and their attack is just unstoppable. Jamie Elliott is another level.
Did you? I didn't know about this, but apparently Brisbane were into Jamie Elliott. Did you hear about this?
No.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think they're into Oscar Allen though. I think that might be the missing piece in their forward line.
Yeah, that'd be big. I feel bad for Oscar Allen. Like, over in WA, small towns, like over here, I would have said, mate, just stick to your word. Like, you're allowed to go explore wherever you want. Like, your team's terrible. Go and do whatever you want to do.
Oh, that press conference that they rolled him out for to apologise.
Shocking.
That was like a hostage video.
Shocking.
It was, I think if you want to know what Oscar Allen is all about and his maturity as a young man, go to their win a couple of weeks ago and listen to his post-match interview
about Selwood,
and that should tell you all you need to know about that young man.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's disputing him. He seems like an absolute ripper.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, like, we haven't spoke about your past career today, but I think that's like a credit to you. Like, I love that. I love, like, even for myself, if I've done something and you almost see them as different people. Is that the way you classify it now? Like, I think, like, being a player versus now your next phase.
Yeah, I think it helps me with, I think, analysing in a way that's a little bit more empathetic. Yeah. I'm not the type of person that in my assessment of teams or players or whatever it might be that I ever want to get personal around a particular player or around a group of players, because, as I said, like, first of all, we're playing footy. We're not changing lives at the end of the day. We're not saving lives. We're helping to entertain people. But the other thing is like, they're humans. Like, they go out there. I can guarantee that everyone on that football field is trying their absolute best to save their spot in the team, to play next week, but also to contribute to the team and to the team doing well. So they're the kind of things that I think from being a player really hold me and help me with working out my values as an analyst and as someone that tries to at times be harsh but fair. I will always try to make sure that if there's something that needs to improve, that it's phrasing it in a way that still understands that there's humanity at the core of it. And I think something that sort of popped up this year was the Essendon, sort of the Bronx cheers when Ben Mackay was playing not super well, and he would have been the first to admit that, so would Essendon, but it really did sort of grind my gears the way that his fans were giving him the Bronxies when he took a mark or when he did things, and I was quite outspoken about that and just said that it probably wasn't good enough, and that's solely coming from a player's perspective. Like, I could not have imagined coming off a ground where my own fans basically took the piss out of me, my mental state at the end of that. I just don't think that's where we need to go with our football. And harden up, like, that's soft. Woke media, what is she doing? Like, if you feel like that, that's fine. But have a look at yourself and think about how you're actually impacting other people. Oh, they're paid this much, they can cope with it. It doesn't matter how much you're paid. Your mental health is something that's quite important, and I think being able to lift up each other, not tear each other down, is something that's as important as that.
Very true. The only hard thing is trying to convince those people to do that is just I don't think anyone can nearly do that.
Yeah.
But it's a great point. Like, it's hard. I even think about that too with when we do Footy and Friends, we joke around and take the piss, and then I'm like, sometimes I think, oh fuck, I hope that person didn't take that the wrong way.
Yeah.
But then there is a part of me too, not so much the sort of guy with Holden Commodore or anything, but the part of it is like, it's a price of admission sometimes as well. Not to attack someone personally, but if you are talking about things that are at a high level, like you want to be analytical and give your opinion. I think, I really love what you say about when you're doing the AFL and then the AFLW. You say you'll be as hard on the AFLW players as you are on the AFL, as long as it's to do with the game, not personal attacks on
That's
people.
That's it. Yeah. I do find personally commentating on AFLW more difficult because I have personal relationships with a whole lot of those girls from either playing with them or just
small circles.
It's a very small circle.
Well,
yeah.
AFL, everything's small.
That's it. And I think coming from an AFLW sense that there have been times where players have taken it the wrong way or
have you had that with
AFLW for sure. With people thinking I'm attacking them personally. And I always tackle it head on. There was a couple of situations where clearly that team wasn't happy with what I'd said about them. So I think just going direct to the person and being like, look, did you have a problem with something that I said? And talking about that because, at the end of the day, I'm not there to offend people or to be personal, but the AFLW girls also need to sort of get to a space where they're asking for more criticism. So they're getting more criticism. And I'm there for the good moments and the bad moments. I'm not someone that jumps on the bandwagon to put it down. I'm actually trying to build it up as much as anyone else is. So I think if you're around for the whole ride, you have the right to be able to assess it that way. But credit to a lot of the girls that if there has been a problem, they've come straight to me and said, I don't think you were quite right with that. And that's fair enough. And talk it out, apologise if I've offended someone, but still sort of at the end of the day, that's my opinion on the matter and happy to be proven wrong and also happy to admit if I am wrong.
Yeah. Well, I'm not speaking on behalf of the AFLW, but I think the way the game's heading and the improvement in the game, they don't want to just be patted on the back, but it has to be done in the right way, which it's done across both codes. Yep. And that's a continual thing. How have you found the media when I hate that term media, but how have you found working, I suppose, in the media with the likes of like the agenda setters and Footy Classified and some of these takes where they are a little bit more opinion based on certain things on and off the field? Like, do you feel that's a part of the game? Because even for someone that, I love footy and love doing it, I do think it is still important to have strong opinions on those things. And I'm a big fan of what Kane does because I think he does do it in the right way. I love watching snippets on Twitter of the agenda setters and Footy Classified to get my news. Do you enjoy that side of it?
Yeah, I do. I think some of the stuff that's gone on this year, there's potentially some that have missed the mark at some point, but I'm with you. I love the work that Kane does. I think he's very well researched in anything that he does. He comes in with a plan. He knows what he's going to talk about. And I think the ability to have disagreements within that is also important. It's okay to have a different opinion to someone as long as you can sort of present yours, they present theirs, and that's that. That is always going to happen in life, and particularly in footy when it's so subjective to why something's not working or why something is working. I think we have a lot of sort of the American media is a lot different to what our media is. And I think
some of that's coming in a little bit.
I think it needs to as well, but I think a few people are quite resistant to it, which is why that kind of, I guess, not understanding where certain things that either Kane does or other analysts don't make sense to people. Yeah. Because it's a little bit more sort of Americanized than what we're expecting or what we're used to. But I'm all for it.
What's the guy's name from the States? I should know this. I'd ask you to know that Kane sort of
Stephen A. Smith.
Stephen A. Smith. Because I remember doing a pod with Kane 3 years ago. This was during COVID, and he was talking about his love for how the NFL and NBA and just American sports in general do their content. And then fast forward to 3 years later, not that he's copied anyone at all, but there's been some real inspiration drawn, which has been a bit of a, trendsetter in what is if you look at history, we are always going to emulate what happens in the States and the UK with how broadcast and media in general goes. So I think it's been quite evolutionary.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, definitely. But I think the thing that's interesting is whenever I have an opinion now, I'm Kate Corns. That's what I get labelled, that I'm trying to be the next Kane Corns.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's actually there's multiple people that have opinions and just because I'm presenting an opinion I feel strongly about something doesn't actually necessarily mean I'm trying to be Kane Corns.
More opinions,
but also it's quite funny because I think it's an insult, but I love Kane and I love the work that he does, so thank you.
Well, Kane's definitely, I think, over the last 12 months, the narrative's definitely shifts. I think, at the start everyone's like, you're a shock jock, but now I'm loving... genuinely loving, not to say I agree with a lot of the people, but I love, seeing Hutchie and Kane and Caro and
Nick's on that
Nick.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a cool.
It's a good dynamic.
Really
Yeah.
good dynamic.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. Would you want to get down that path, or are you really happy with where your sort of analyst stuff's going at the moment?
Yeah, I think like I'm sort of doing low level stuff like that in other shows that I do. So I try and get as much of sort of the analysis or the hard hitting, but that's just having an opinion really
hard
on
hitting's
what's
just
going
something
on.
that's a bit awkward.
Yeah, it is. It's something that you've gone with that you're pretty confident on that people aren't going to agree with, so therefore it's hard hitting. But I could say as hard hitting a thing positively and it gets nothing, whereas if I say something negative that's hard hitting, it's everywhere and I'm an idiot.
It's basically just negative.
But yeah, I love the work that they're doing because I think it's important, some of the things that they're highlighting that people are maybe a bit too scared to talk about on other platforms.
Yeah. What about the AFLW? What's happening at the moment? What will your involvement be in the upcoming season? And obviously there been a few wins. There's still a bit to come, but there's been a few wins heading into that.
Yeah, there have been. So it's good that we've got a fixture and that it's a 12-week fixture, which is great.
Yep.
The most games that we've ever had. I think first couple of weeks of it will be difficult for me with how much overlap there is with men's season. So I'll try and work out as many games as I can do across the AFLW
Do you
to
do
start
your own
with.
schedule?
Do I do? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, management helps with what we can lock in and what we can do. But yeah, day to day, I do what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. And if it's not in the calendar, then I will miss it.
Exactly.
So
calendar invites are my favourite thing.
so important. I stood someone up a few weeks ago because I thought I'd put it in my calendar. I didn't. And then they're like, hey, are you still arriving? And I was like, I am so sorry. And yeah, so that's that. But yeah, AFLW, I think they've still, with the fixturing, it's great that we've got 12 rounds. I think they've still missed the mark. A few little things that could have.
What would you like to see?
I want to see games in stadiums. And I know people are like, well, how are you going to pay for the stadium? Well, I think they don't understand that AFLW is a very unique beast. Marvel is available to AFLW for the first time in a long time because it usually starts or is in progress when the handover period is finished. So they don't have access to the stadium anymore. So this could have been one of those times where they made a real feature out of some AFLW games and had double headers at Marvel with 2 different AFLW clubs or 4 different AFLW clubs would work.
Yeah, it'd be sick.
I guarantee it would work. The fans of AFLW are not sole fans of clubs. They're fans of so many different clubs because of how it's had to grow. Because to start with, you had 8 teams. Now there's 18. So players have moved, but like fans still love those players or love this about that club and love this about that club. It's different to men's footy.
I'd actually love to know what the average amount of, like in the inception, obviously, as the game's grown
up.
Yeah,
the dilution of it.
Yeah, the dilution of like the average amount of clubs.
Yeah.
Because like Bulldogs, Brisbane, Hawthorn.
Yeah, no, Bulldogs, Brisbane, Melbourne.
Melbourne were the first ones. Brisbane, Adelaide.
Yeah.
But Bulldogs and Melbourne were first. So were they the first 4?
There was 8 to start with. So then
Collingwood?
Freo. Yeah, Freo, Carlton, Collingwood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, how much people have like moved from different
it would be an interesting like evolution of where everyone's gone to.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference between men's and women's footy is like people don't move clubs and get booed. They move clubs and still support it because for the growth of the game, it needs to happen. And yeah, I think there has been a little bit of an opportunity missed, and people's rebuttal to that is the average crowds and this and that. And my rebuttal to them is it's very difficult to get to some of the games or grounds that we have AFLW games played at. Like it is hard to get public transport to Princess Park. It is hard to get to Casey Fields. It does not help. Yeah, it's very hard with a car to get to Casey Fields. But we don't help or give the opportunity for there to be an option to play in a stadium where the quality of the football is going to improve. The accessibility for fans is going to improve, and that overall improves the product. So
what was the reasoning for that? Like the AFL own Marvel, so it's...
They didn't really give a reason that they weren't using it this year. Previously, it's been attendance, so that they wouldn't get enough attendance. And my argument
what else is taking its place?
I don't know. Previous seasons, it's been things like motocross that have had access to the ground. But this season is unique.
Seems like it would get a lot of people.
Yeah, but this season is unique in the sense that
you're going to the Crusty Demons,
round,
Darcy, aren't you?
Always. Miss it.
Round 23 and 24 of the men's season is still going.
Yeah.
Then you've got finals, so they still have access to Marvel Stadium. That's 6 weeks where the women could be using that.
Yeah, okay.
Where it's just sitting there. And like I guarantee if you put a couple of games on there on a Saturday afternoon, fans will turn up. And if they don't, we won't complain about it for another 5 years. If we get it and we don't have 20, 30,000 there to come and watch the games, fair enough. We tried and it didn't work, but try it. Try it and say it failed rather than saying it won't work.
Even like some of the numbers this year at Marvel have been...
Well, they had 13,000 as a Saints game.
Yeah.
Apparently the number is to break even is 20. So
okay. Good
not
to know.
valid.
Well, it's good that like that's obviously something that's being pushed, and hopefully in the near future it does happen. Because like I said, like the doubleheaders, even the I was at the game a few weeks ago, and even the men's had the doubleheader at Marvel. I was like, this is sick.
yeah. It's just something that they need to explore, and I think 10 years in, if you look at where the game's grown and where it's gone to, the one thing that has been pretty stagnant has been the venues that they've decided to use across the last 10 years.
And it's not you won't use the term, I know it was used earlier, but like a what's it called when you curtain raiser games? I know double headers now. Like if you looked at like a AFLW game into an AFL game, is that something that...
Well, the players said they wanted that.
They like that, yeah.
Yeah, the PA's sort of response to the fixture was that they were disappointed that there wasn't more of that.
It's great.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got the two teams playing, so the clubs could be, like say it was Carlton Collingwood,
yep,
or whatever it was, playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, that's somewhere that I really think 10 years in we should be further advanced than what we are. Yeah. And I just think give it a chance and see what happens. And like I said, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We tried it. Thanks for coming. We'll go back to where we've been, but let's give it a chance first.
Yeah. Fantastic. What's goals for the rest of the year for you? I know it just doesn't really stop, but yeah, it won't really because you'll be going into...
I think AFLW drafts the 15th of December, so that's what I'm going till. But it will calm down a lot when men's footy does finish, because then there'll be maybe one or two shows for women's footy and just the women's stuff. So Monday to Friday will be a little bit quieter. But yeah, just keep on keeping on. I'm 12 rounds in. I've got 12 to go in finals, and then that little tricky period. The hardest part is definitely going to be the overlap. But like I said, once you get into a good routine, it's great. When I got the gig on the Sunday footy feast for 7, I think it was maybe December, I found out that I was going to be doing that. That was the first thing on men's footy I had on 7, which I was really excited about. And I'd set myself a goal that by the end of 2026, I will have hopefully been on broadcast for men's footy, and it's happened halfway through 2025. So that's been something that sort of reflecting on has been really quite, I guess, something that I'm quite proud about, to be able to do that and to be able to be on there. And I get to do King's birthday and get to work with Bruce McAvaney. So I probably can quit after that, because I've probably achieved all that I'm ever going to, having worked alongside Bruce in my second game of men's football coverage. So I think I'll probably just put the feet up and retire from then on, because I've reached all the heights I can.
Good on you, Kate. I'm so wrapped for you, honestly. It's been amazing watching you just do your thing and just keep on keeping on, as you said yourself in your own words. I do like that saying. And then to ultimately get to hit your, I suppose, short-term, medium-term goal in going on the broadcast on a Friday night, which is just huge, for absolutely everyone to be tuning in. Not to put any pressure on you, but it's going to be amazing. Right. You'll absolutely nail it. And, really appreciate your time, your knowledge, your analysis, and hopefully you're not a stranger. We want to work with you as much as we can, as we mentioned, and got to get you into Footy and Friends, because the analytics there, Brett's he's hit a bit of a wall, and I think he's getting tired throughout the season, so I might need you to come in and just spike the boys up a little bit.
All right, yeah. Come in for a bit of a pep talk, one episode, and then, hopefully everyone has a bit more spring in their step from there.
Might need you for a few more.
That's all right, I can do that. I'm available.
Good stuff. Make sure you guys go and follow Kate on Instagram. We'll have the link in the show notes for that. Anything else that's going on at the moment?
Nah, just whenever the next game of footy is, and then roll into the next day and try and catch up on sleep after that.
And then walk the dogs.
That's it.
All right, enjoy.
Thanks, Dyl.